Today on the podcast we have Kaci Girl.
Hello.
I'm so excited to have you on here today.
Yes, I'm excited to be here. Everyone's going to have to excuse my voice because I kind of like fried it on Space Mountain. So.
Yeah, so if you guys don't know why we're in a hotel bedroom, it's because we're on a trip together.
Yeah.
So there is a reason behind that. But yeah, we just did Disneyland for the past 2 days and it was rough.
Yeah.
How many kids do we have on this trip?
We had 5.
5 kids.
And 3 of them were under a year old.
Yeah. Dude, that's wild.
Crazy.
I feel like we actually did really good though. Last time I did Disneyland and it was only with 2 kids, and I feel like it took us way longer to like get to every little section. But I feel like we did
good.
Yeah.
All of the kids did so good.
Oh yeah.
Like I was really happy with all the kids.
Yeah, they were troopers, and we didn't even tap out at like 4 p.m. Like we did the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was rough, but we did it.
Oh, we did it. A little pat on the back. So, Kaci, you have 3 kids. You made up 3 of the 5 children.
Yeah.
So
3 kids.
What's the age makeup there?
So my oldest is 5. Sawyer, he's our only boy, and then we have 2 girls, Indy and Honey. Indy's 4 and Honey is 5 months.
5 months.
Yeah. Well, she'll be 6 months when this airs.
Wait, so you said 5 and 4. What's the age gap between Sawyer and Indy?
They are 18 months apart. So, yeah, a year and a
So
half.
you did the 2 under 2.
Yeah.
You did the thing.
Yeah, we got pregnant with Indy when Sawyer was 9 months old.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. How was that?
It was rough. So I was still breastfeeding Sawyer when I got pregnant. So that's rough because, like, you're pregnant and then you also have, like, an attachment there. Like, you know how it is with breastfeeding. It's just, like, it can be, like, over touchy. And I'm already like that when I'm pregnant, so it was, like, amplified. Or at least for me, that's my experience.
Yeah.
I get, like, touched out. And then I had HG when I was pregnant with Indy, which is just, like, full-on sickness the entire time you're pregnant.
Mm.
So having that with a 9-month-old was rough.
And you were still, so you had HG and you were breastfeeding.
Yeah.
Literally how?
I don't know.
That is
I don't even,
crazy.
Yeah.
So you were able to still manage breastfeeding while you were going through all
Yeah,
of that.
I breastfed him until he was 14 months.
Wow.
Yeah. So I had a little break before Indy was born.
Oh my gosh. What an accomplishment. And you breastfed Indy too.
Yeah, I did.
Wow. That is insane.
Yeah.
So you like set out to breastfeed for like all of your kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't work out as well this past time because I developed like an autoimmune disease and it just dried me up. Mm-hmm. So like when my thyroid flared up, it just like took my milk. But it was hard at first and now I'm happy with the outcome. So yeah, I've just accepted it.
Yeah, that's so hard. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you were able to breastfeed. You weren't able to breastfeed Honey. Mm-hmm. What was...
Well, I did for like 4 months.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So it counts a little.
Yeah, 4 months is like a really big accomplishment. I made it 4 months.
Yeah.
I made it 4 months and then I ended up switching to pumping. Mm-hmm. And then my milk eventually dried up as it does. But yeah, 4 months literally feels like an eternity.
It does.
It's a newborn stage.
Yeah, it does.
Like, yeah.
Felt much longer than 4 months.
Yeah. So you've had 3 kids. You've had 3 different pregnancies, 3 different postpartum experiences. How was each one differing from each other? Like, did you know what to expect and were you caught off guard by any of the different times that you got pregnant or postpartum?
So when I was pregnant with Sawyer, I was 20, I think. Maybe 19. No, I had just turned 20. So we got pregnant and the pregnancy was so good. It was like no sickness, no health issues. It was like the best pregnancy. I thought that all my pregnancies would be that way. And so that's why I like jumped into another one so soon. But postpartum with him was kind of rough. So I didn't have postpartum depression, but I had postpartum anxiety. And back then I didn't realize it. Or I didn't have like the term for it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really talked about much, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like just within the past few years, like people are finally getting comfortable enough to actually talking about it and like seeking out help because like everyone that I've talked to beforehand was like, oh, I was too scared to.
Yeah.
Like the OB checkups, they're like,
you don't want to answer.
Like I don't want to answer truthfully. Like, are they going to take my kid away or something?
Yes, for sure. So I just remember having like terrible thoughts, like intrusive thoughts, and I didn't leave him with anyone until he was like 12 months old, and I was like forced to. So yeah, that was really hard. I remember when he was a newborn, if family would come over and like hold him, I would just go into the bathroom and cry, because I would just be thinking like, what if they drop him, or like what if he wants me and he doesn't know how to say it because he's a baby. And so yeah, it was a hard experience.
That's so real though, especially with your first. Like I feel like every new mom with their first has a little bit of anxiety just by nature of like what the heck is going on, but those intrusive thoughts are so real. Of like literally, I don't remember the stuff that I used to think about, but like the most random things, like crazy scenarios that I would come up with in my head of like, what if this happens? Like if
that never makes sense.
That doesn't make sense. It's always like the most random thing. Yeah. Oh gosh. So when you like so you said you dealt with that anxiety, but you didn't really know it at the time. So yeah, like what was that process like with postpartum, like realizing that you had anxiety? Like how long did it take you to actually seek out help, or did you?
So when I had Indy, I had like a spinal leak. Some things went wrong with my spinal block, so I was in the hospital for longer than we expected.
And that was after you gave birth?
So yes, so that was when I was in the hospital having her, and it kind of forced me to leave Sawyer with someone for like 4 days. And I think after that is when I realized like, okay, he's gonna be okay with other people. Like he made it 4 days, he's still alive, and it kind of broke that spell for a little bit. And I was good for a while after I had Indy, and then I want to say like maybe 6 months into postpartum after her, it all started to come back, and this time it was with postpartum depression. So I did like talk to a doctor about it and get on medication for a while. Yeah.
Dang. So, and with that, like, what was the process with that? Were you still dealing with like the anxiety and then it added on? Like, I mean, because I'm sure the transition between 1 and 2 was
brutal,
crazy, and 2 under 2 on top of that.
Yeah, it's brutal. Yeah, and Kaci was like working full time, so it was just me by myself, and like after a C-section, and it was rough. But I just
so was Kaci? Did he immediately go back to work after you had Indy?
I think it was like a week later. I still wasn't able to like lift or anything. Yeah, I had to have somebody come over and like just help me put Sawyer in his crib for nap times, because I wasn't supposed to lift him, and I was scared of like ripping the incision.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, my grandma would come over and just like put him in the crib for me, and then when he would wake up, I would like assist him in like climbing out of it.
That's
because
crazy.
I couldn't pick him up. Yeah.
So did that make your C-section take longer to heal because you were like not really able to fully rest? Because I mean, you just kind of got thrown into it.
Yeah, I feel like it took a while to heal.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I was sore for a long time. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
So I've always had anxiety. Obviously postpartum anxiety is like a whole different level, because then it goes from like thoughts about you to thoughts about your kids. So it's like, and from my experience, it was way worse than like my normal anxiety. And then it just kind of snowballed and turned into depression. And depression's one of those things that you just can't explain to someone. Like if you haven't experienced it, a lot of people think it's just like sadness, and it's so beyond that.
Yeah. It comes off in like so many different offshoots. Like for me, it was, have you heard of postpartum rage?
Yes, I'm pretty sure I have it.
No
right
way.
now.
Have it right now.
Because I'm like 5 months postpartum. Yeah. And I still feel like I have the rage.
That's so real.
The hormones have not settled.
The rage. Dude, I like literally didn't know that term existed, and once I did, I was like, immediate yes.
That's what's wrong with me.
Because I'm telling you, if it will be the most like the littlest thing that will just send me into oblivion of like if the bottle doesn't get washed correctly, or like I don't know, like a dish is still in the sink, or like something so dumb. I'm just like feel it bubbling up. Like,
Yeah.
you, like, literally can't control it. And I thought I was going crazy. I would never have put that into, like, the postpartum depression category.
Yeah.
But it totally is. It's just, like, it can manifest in, like, so many different things.
Mm-hmm.
What was your postpartum depression experience like with Indy? Like, when you realized you had it, like, what were some of, like, the signs, symptoms that you were like, oh, shoot, like, I should probably get help?
Yeah, so after I had her, there were times where I struggled, like, getting out of bed. Like, I had no motivation for anything. This is gross.
That's okay.
But I would just, like,
gross.
go days okay. without showering. Like,
dude, yeah.
I literally had I want to get in the shower,
mm-hmm.
but I cannot force myself to do anything. And then, like, my house would be a pigsty. It's just, like, zero motivation to do anything. You just want to, like, lay around.
Yeah. And it's hard because it's, like, once you get in it, you almost want to be in it.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to pull yourself out because it's, like...
You're stuck.
You're stuck, you're comfortable, and even though it sucks, you almost, like, want to stay in it so you can feel the bad feelings.
Yeah.
It's, like, this weird, vicious cycle.
It is.
Like, I remember... For the first 3 months, like, there were milk stains all over my bed. I'm leaking everywhere, like, not showering. Like, I used to religiously wash my face morning and night.
Yeah.
And now I still struggle with, like, dang it, I need to take my makeup
too.
off. It's still so bad. And it's, like, little things that I have to, like, relearn to just, like, take care of myself because you forget to take care of yourself. And I can't imagine with 2, 3 now. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So you got like a 4-year gap. How much of that played into like, I did 2 under 2, this was rough, like I need to take a break?
Yeah, so after we had Indy, we were like set on being done. Hence why I got this tattoo. It's of Sawyer and Indy's birth flowers. Because I'm not having any more kids, so I'm going to go ahead and get a tattoo for them. Yeah, we were set on not having any more. And then after, I guess Indy was like 3.5 when we decided to have a third. After that long, you just kind of forget what postpartum is like and everything. Like your head's above water and everything's easier. So yeah, that's when we decided. But I will say the transition to 3 has been so much easier. I feel like the more you have, it gets easier each time. Like 0 to 1 was the absolute worst for me. Like going from no kids to 1 kid is the hardest.
That's a hot topic because some people say 1 to 2 is harder. I also say, well, I have nothing to speak on, I guess, but I can imagine 0 to 1 is rough. I mean, it just depends, like I think a lot of it plays into how your postpartum is and like how you adjust to 0 to 1 to having no babies to all of a sudden you have someone to take care of. If that's a really rough experience for you, then you don't want to do it again. But then other people have like a blissful newborn stage, right? And then they do the second one and the second kid is like chaotic and they're like, what did I get into?
Yeah.
That's crazy though, because you are now, you are outnumbered, but you would still say it's easier.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's just, like, things are more chaotic now, but the experience was easier. Like, now I feel like I know how to deal with infant sleep. For me, that's one of, like, the hardest parts of postpartum is infant sleep. And people, that's one thing you don't realize until you have a kid. Like, jumping in from 0 to 1, we had no clue. Like, I didn't prepare to, like, learn about a schedule or anything like that. Right. So that wrecked me. And so now I know about that. Just like all the little things that you wouldn't know before you become a parent, you've kind of like, I don't want to say mastered, but you've gotten so much better at by the time you get to 3 kids.
Right.
So it's just like, it just flowed for us.
Yeah. Because you know the things that you like, you know the things that didn't work for your other kids.
All the products and stuff.
Yeah. You probably tried out like every single one by this point. Yeah. Well, I know. Like I've seen you this week, and like you guys kill it with 3 kids.
Stop.
Like no, I'm so serious.
So
like
sweet.
I would have been a panicked wreck if I took 3 kids with me under 5 to Disney. Like there's no way that I would have been able to handle that.
You guys handle 1 kid so well.
Oh,
that's
wow.
What,
Thank you.
I was just thinking, like this weekend, I feel like you and Cam, Shelby and Dylan, like. Y'all are so good with 1 kid compared to how I was with Sawyer. Like, I I feel like y'all have it together.
Cry.
Yeah, I feel like y'all have it together. I was a wreck. It might have been because I was younger. How old are you guys? Or when you had Addie?
I'm 23.
Okay.
23 when I had her. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I feel like she's 10 months now. I feel like probably within this past month I got it together.
Yeah.
But I still feel like I don't got it. I feel like I'm just baseline at this point. Like I'm like finally starting to like get out of that terrible postpartum depression bubble of like I can see I'm not underwater anymore and I'm like, okay, I think I know what I'm doing, maybe, but then something else, some other
another
development or something hits and I'm like, what's going on?
That when she starts walking.
Oh my gosh. We haven't even thought about baby proofing yet. Like that. How do you, first of all, okay, when you don't have enough hands, like how are you dealing with like baby proofing? Like do you like lose track of your kids sometimes? Like
so I haven't done this yet because Honey's like not mobile. She's just rolling. But when the others were little, we just had baby gates everywhere.
Oh,
like we literally had like 4 baby gates in our house. In our tiny like 1,500 square foot house.
Yeah.
There was like a baby gate everywhere.
That makes me feel better because we live in a 1,000 square foot apartment and I'm like, that's so small. Like I don't need baby gates. Like I just need to pay attention. Yeah. But like then it stresses me out when I'm not paying attention. Yeah. That's so funny. Okay.
You need all the baby gates.
Yeah. So you said you're 5 months postpartum with Honey, right?
Yeah.
So you had like a 3.5-year age gap. Mm-hmm. Now you're 5 months postpartum. What was that experience like? So you said you kind of forgot about like pregnancy, postpartum, how bad it was, whatever. Yeah. Did you like hit the shocking reality of like when you got pregnant again, you were like, oh crap. Like it was like yeah. Did you have HG again?
No, I didn't have HG. I was pretty sick with Honey. But I guess it would be like normal morning sickness. I didn't have morning
whatever
sickness.
That means.
Yeah.
Like, what even is normal at this point?
Right. I didn't have any sickness with Sawyer, and then I had HG with Indy. Mm-hmm. So this was kind of like the middle. So I guess it's like your typical morning sickness.
Okay.
But it wasn't just in the mornings. It was like, you know.
That's, okay. I have a bone to pick with
why do they call it that?
Has called it morning sickness because hello, I am honestly was more sick in the afternoons. Yeah. But it never went away. It was just a constant, like, do I eat a cracker? Do I not? Do I drink some water? Do I not? Like, it was just, like, every second of every day I'm trying to figure out how to make the nausea go away. Yeah. It is not morning sickness. That's a lie.
It's all day sickness.
It's all day sickness.
All day, all night sickness.
Yeah.
So the funny thing is when I was pregnant with Indy, in the trenches of HG, and that's, like, a whole nother thing that you can't even explain. It's like having the stomach bug for 9 months. Like,
did you have it for the full 9 months?
So I had it. I want to say I was really sick until like 30 weeks, and then I had a little break, and then usually it comes back at the end, and it did a little bit for me. So it's like some people have it the entire 9 months, but I had like a short little break.
A short little break. Well, that's lovely.
Yeah. At least I had a little break.
For that.
Yeah. Yeah. But at one point, my doctor put me, like, on an all-liquid diet because I was just, like, not holding anything down. I was, like, passing out. At one point, I passed out behind the wheel. No. And so I had to, like, go to the hospital, and they were doing, like, IVs and stuff to try and hydrate me. And so I had to do that kind of often. Oh, because I just had, like, there was nothing to me. I was, like, I felt like I was withering away. Yeah. I lost a bunch of weight. I was, like, way tinier during that pregnancy than I am now. Yeah. Because I just dropped so much weight from being so sick.
Right. Thank God you were okay.
I know.
That's crazy. So you skipped over that so quickly. You passed out at the wheel. Yeah. Did you crash into anything?
No, Casey was with me, and I just, like, swerved a little bit, and then I can't even remember the full, like, gist of what happened. I just remember everything going black, and then at some point when the wheel, like, got pulled back on, I just, like, snapped back. Wow. And we're going to the hospital to get some fluids because it got bad.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So did they, like, hospitalize you, before you gave birth or something to make sure you were, like, all good? Or
no,
nothing like that?
Yeah, I feel like other people with HG would vouch for this. There's not a lot of, like, resources or help they'll like prescribe you Zofran,
Yeah.
but a lot of times that doesn't help, and Zofran can make you like really tired too.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took it a couple times, and then having a 9-month-old, I couldn't anymore. I'm like, I can't be alone with him during the day and like loopy. So
well, yeah, and I'm sure he was probably still waking up during the night, teething, all those things.
Yeah.
I know I've had a couple friends that have dealt with HG, and they've said the same thing. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, they just like prescribed me medication, but like it didn't work.
Yeah.
Like one of them still on medication, still had to go to the hospital and get put on IV for a few days because she could not hold any water for like multiple days.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff like
It
that.
is crazy.
Yeah.
I remember taking, like, if I had to leave the house and go anywhere, I would literally have to just drive with a bag, like, up to my face. And I would literally be, like, vomiting while driving. It's the most wild. Like, looking back, I'm like, how did I do that with a baby?
Women are literally superstars. Like,
Yeah.
I am so, like, in awe of people who have dealt with that. I luckily didn't deal with HG. I mean, knock on wood that I won't eventually have to. I probably will, but whatever. That's such is the way, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, like my sister-in-law, she had to work while she was doing it, and she just so casually was like, yeah, just had to like run to the bathroom real quick, do my thing, and then like come back and continue to work. And I'm just like, wow. And she did that for like basically her whole pregnancy.
Yeah.
Ugh,
I remember being pregnant with Indy. And I told several of my friends and family, like, I have friends that, like, still bring this up because it's funny now, but I told people, if I ever bring up wanting to be pregnant again, remind me of this moment, remind me of this pregnancy and how brutal it is. And I remember, like, when I first started getting the feeling, like, I might want another, those same friends would be like, remember what you said, like, it hasn't, but then you forget.
You forget.
You literally just forget.
You can hear the words, but you're like, no, it's really going to be fine. So, yeah, how was Honey's pregnancy? So, your most recent one, you had that long gap. You said you didn't have HG, but you did have high risk.
Yeah.
So, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So I was sick for a little bit at first with her, and then I have this blood disorder where my platelets are like extremely low.
And did you know about that with the other two?
Yep. So I've had that my entire life, but this time it was much lower. And they were talking about like basically putting me to sleep for her birth so I wouldn't get to experience it because my platelets were so low that they wouldn't have been able to do like a spinal block and they would have just put me under completely. So the whole time I was pregnant, it was like, what if, like, we didn't know if I was going to be awake or asleep during the delivery. And that's not like a make or break thing. Like, it would have been okay, but every mom wants to like be awake and be present for that moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's scary thinking about just like a C-section, like your insides, like being open and you're just asleep and they're delivering your baby and you don't get to hear the first cry. And so I was like really emotional about that. And my platelets got so low to the point where they were like, you have to be careful with your kids. Like, you can't really play with them.
I remember hearing about that.
They were like, you shouldn't leave the state because it's like if you like bang up against the dresser or if something happens and you like bruise really bad, it could be fatal. So that was really sad because we're like hands-on with our kids and not being able to like play with them. That was hard.
And you found that out pretty early on in your pregnancy, if I'm remembering right.
Yes.
How early did you get that news that you couldn't really play with your kids, you couldn't leave the house, all of that?
I want to say it was like 12 weeks. Like, it was pretty early, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
That's basically the beginning, because you find out when you're 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So, like, 2 months in, basically, of hearing the news that you were pregnant, you hear that you really can't do anything for the rest of your pregnancy. That's crazy.
And we all had that trip planned to Vegas.
We did.
And I had to cancel on that. It was like a work trip that we were excited about. And that my doctor was like, you cannot get on a plane. Like, absolutely not, just in case something happens.
So how was the rest of those 6 months for you? Was it just like interacting with your kids, you know, all of that? The anticipation of, am I going to be able to be awake for my baby? All of those things.
There was that, and then we had like a little scare, if you would even call it that, during my 20-week ultrasound, where they said that she had markers of Down syndrome. So it was also kind of like anticipating that. and we didn't know for sure, so it was just kind of like another wait and see type of thing.
What do you mean you didn't know so there's no for sure way to know if they have that or not?
So I'm not completely sure like how all of that works. I did the testing, like the blood test, which another funny story, that's how we found out the gender. So we weren't going to find out the gender of her until birth. And they were supposed to leave that off of the blood test.
And they just put it straight on.
They put it on. So we saw, and it wasn't like a cute like reveal. It was literally me opening up the blood test, and I just saw it, and I was just like,
oh
Kaci.
My goodness.
Yeah. So anyway, that was like
that
a whole other thing.
So tragic.
This pregnancy, it was like literally one thing after another, and obviously like knowing the gender is not the end of the world. But when it's your last baby, like you know for sure it's your last baby.
Right, and you have one boy, you have one girl, like
we were
there's
excited.
A lot of build up for that.
Yeah, we were excited.
Did you have like a gender reveal plan and everything, or were you just gonna like...
So we just told our parents kind of in a special way. We did like a balloon thing and had like a little photo shoot. It was small, intimate thing. But so for that blood test, the results were negative. But then during my ultrasound, they were like, she has something that is seen in Down syndrome babies. And then I talked to another mom who was like, my blood test was actually negative. And then they saw a marker during the ultrasound. And so then I wanted them to redo my test. And then that test came back positive. And then her baby was actually born with Down syndrome. Yeah. So then I was like, because people were saying like, well, the test was negative. It's probably right. But then I heard from her, and I'm like, hers was also negative. It was like the same thing, like, and her baby had a marker, and then she was born with it. So, and obviously that would be okay, but that's like a whole life to prepare for.
There's nothing wrong. It's not a bad thing.
Right.
It's just a huge life change.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, there's so much that goes around that, and that you have to plan for and prepare for of, you know, being their primary caretaker for however many years. Like, that's a lot to undergo.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like a lot to process in the moment. And then, like I said, it was one thing after another with this pregnancy.
Yeah. So how did your birth go?
So I developed a liver condition, like a rare liver condition, a little bit earlier than you're supposed to for the people that get it. So mine started happening at like 20-something weeks. I just randomly started having like severely itchy hands and feet.
Oh, gosh. And this, you developed this through pregnancy?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's like an itch that's under it's like your blood is itching. That's the only way I can explain it. It's called cholestasis. So people that have it, have to deliver early. So they were planning to deliver me at 37 weeks.
Because of your blood?
Because of
your platelets?
No, because of the liver condition.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this is what made them...
That's what made them do it early.
Yeah.
Okay, so backtrack. You are going to possibly be under because of your platelets, and then they push your delivery date early
37.
because of your liver.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, because the liver condition can be like fatal to the baby.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So they put me on medicine for that right away, and like when you have an organ that's failing, like you just feel like crap. And so like towards the whole end of my pregnancy, I was so miserable, everything. And then obviously like I have an autoimmune disease, and so that's a whole, people that deal with that know what that's like you're just constantly tired, fatigued, you just don't feel good from that. So it was like my thyroid was going out of control. They had to up my medication for that, and then my liver was failing, my platelets were low.
Wow.
And then several weeks before I turned 35 weeks, I started having really high blood pressure spikes, but they wouldn't stay high, like getting into the 200s.
My gosh.
So it was like really high, but then it would come down. And the doctor kept saying like, there's nothing on paper right now, but something's brewing. Like, I know something's brewing, and I know you're not going to make it to 37. Like, he just kept saying, there's no way you're going to make it the whole time. So I went in a couple days before 35 weeks, and my platelets had dropped like to a severe level, and my entire body just like puffed up so big, and like you could like touch my skin and it would just leave like huge pits in my skin. I looked like a completely different person. Like, I was like unrecognizable. And so they told me I had preeclampsia, and then basically just told me to like keep watching my blood pressure at home. And then it was like 1 or 2 days later, I went in and they said I had HELLP syndrome. So that's like, after you have preeclampsia, it could be HELLP syndrome and then it's death. So it's like, you're literally on the line of dying at that point. So they quickly gave me a steroid shot, and they tried to make it long enough to where they could give me a second one, and I couldn't because my blood pressure. They had me on like a magnesium drip, which is supposed to lower your blood pressure.
Where was your mind during all of this?
Oh, I was in complete shock because dropping the kids off and like trying to say goodbye to them, but also being like in a medical emergency. It was just like my mind was racing, and
because I'm sure you didn't want to freak them out.
Yeah,
and
nothing.
They don't understand.
Nothing prepares you to have a baby that early, like a month and a half early.
Yeah.
You just don't expect it. You think you have this many weeks left. Yeah, I was extremely sick, and so they tried to make it a few hours out to give me my second steroid shot. It was for me, for my platelets, and for Honey's lungs. But my blood pressure was like out of control, even with all the medicine they were giving me to keep it down. And so they were like, we have to take you right away. And thank God, this is like the craziest thing. The steroid shot that they gave me boosted my platelets to like the exact number that they had to be for me to get a spinal block. It was wild. So I didn't have to be put under. But it was like, they literally, they came in and checked my platelets, and they were like, you literally are at the marker. So I was able to have the spinal block.
Thank you, God.
Isn't that wild?
That is literally insane.
Yeah, it was.
Wow. So you were able to be awake?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, but I was like, so if anybody's like been on a mag drip, they know what I'm talking about. You're not in your right mind. So even though I was awake, I wasn't
loopy or drowsy, or what does it do to you?
So I think for like a typical adult, you shouldn't have more than like 400 milligrams of magnesium a day.
Yeah.
When you have HELLP syndrome, they have you on, I want to say 1,000 milligrams an hour. So they tell you no more than 400 a day because of how crazy it makes you. I mean,
my gosh.
People take magnesium to like sleep hard at night, and they're like just pumping me full of it. And you get to a point where you can't hold your head up.
While you're in labor.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Oh
and then the whole 24 hours after that, you have to stay on it just in case your blood pressure spikes again. Whoa. So, I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't hold my head up. I was just not in my right mind.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So, so you're not in your right mind.
I was in another
dimension.
Yeah.
Entirely.
And they gave me fentanyl. Is that how you say it? Is that the...
Oh,
and I remember I was already kind of loopy, and then she was like, we're going to give you fentanyl, and I was like, you're going to give me what? And she was like, no, not like the street kind, and I was like, oh, thank God for the clarification.
Yeah,
I didn't know that there was any other kind, but yeah. So I was on a Mac drip and that. Wow. So I was in outer space.
Yeah, I am sure of that. So then, could you even process that Honey was now here with you guys? Like, you just gave birth. Like, where were you at? Because I didn't have either of those things. And by the time I finally gave birth, just because my oxygen levels were low, I was like, where am I right now?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? I can't imagine being on all of that and going through what you just went through.
Yeah. The easiest way I can explain it is it's kind of like you're like watching yourself. Like, it's like, it was like an out of body. Mm-hmm. Like, I was there on the table, but I wasn't really. Like, my mind was just somewhere else.
Oh,
it was crazy. And so, like I said, I had to be on that for like another day. So thank God my mom was there to like help, because Casey was like taking care of me and she was taking care of Honey. Mm-hmm. And they were like having to put her like on the breast for me and stuff, because I was just out of my mind.
Yeah. And did she have to be in the NICU because she was so early?
No, actually. So that was a blessing. After everything, I'm like, thank God.
So you just got to go home with your baby.
Yeah. So the NICU team actually came in and talked to us before I had her. Like, they introduced themselves. They're like, this is what's going to happen. She's going to have to go to the NICU. And as soon as I had her, they take her from the doctor and they just start I'm like trying to like look back, because you're like on the table and you're numb like all the way to your neck. So I'm like trying to look behind me, and they're just like doing all these things to her, like checking her lungs, checking her weight.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that she was fine. After everything that, like, we had been through together for 9 months, I was so happy that she didn't have to go to the NICU. Yeah.
What a sweet ending to that chaotic pregnancy. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. And so were you just, like, so relieved to, like, not be pregnant again, have a healthy, happy baby, go home?
Yes. And I actually, so we didn't tell anyone this until after the fact, but during my C-section, I actually got my tubes removed. So that was, like, the final, it was just, like, the end of having kids for us and, like, the close of a chapter, so, yeah.
Was that relief?
Yeah. I struggled with it for a little bit after, just, like, I didn't regret the decision, but it's just sad, like, coming to the conclusion, like, at some point, everyone stopped having kids, and for us, it was that time, so it's sad to, like, come to terms with that, but we're happy with the decision. Like, my body couldn't deal with another pregnancy, especially not with Hashimoto's, and how bad it affected my last one. And people that have the liver condition I have, you're more likely to keep getting it during your next pregnancies. And so, like, liver failure and thyroid failure, it's just too much. But we've talked about adoption, and so that's probably something in our future when Honey gets older.
Oh,
yeah, so it's not like we're done with kids completely. It's just done with pregnancy.
Just in a different font. You know, a whole different experience. Yeah. That's really awesome. Mm-hmm. Oh. Well, thank you so much for talking with me today. Yes. So happy to finally hear more about that, because I know, like, it's hard when we're literally across the country from each other to finally hear your story. I just got glimpses of it, but seeing how you have held yourself through such, like, crazy pregnancies and being, like, literally having your life on the line and seeing the positive in that, like, you, like, and I mean, it was for the most part, like, an outsider's perspective, I guess, from my end, but, like, you were just so hopeful and thankful the whole time, and it was just, like, really admirable to see. So
that's so sweet. Yeah, I just kept, like, it was through, like, a lot of prayer and tears, and I just kept reminding myself, like, everything happens for a reason, like, there's a big picture to this, even though I don't see it yet, so, and hopefully, I mean, it could be that my story is going to help somebody else's, or you never know, like, what God is going to use it for, so.
Absolutely. Yeah. Which is why I had you on here today, so hopefully someone listening knows that they're not alone in whatever experience, can relate to you, find hope, or anything in that story. That was awesome. Thank you guys for tuning into our conversation today. I am so happy to have you here. I hope you left feeling supported and hopeful in your motherhood journey, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Was I supposed to say it with you?
Yeah, you did. We, like, harmonized there. Bye.